Welcome, Capital Raisers. On today's show, Bethany, Finch, and I discuss 27 years of investing experience, intentional living, and holistic investing. Are you guys ready to raise? Shout out to our sponsors, Invest Next to Capitalist Pro, and to our great friends at the Family Office Club. Do not miss the Strategic Capital Raise Conference on June 7th and 8th, 2024. We have some crazy capital raise panels and big stars doing keynotes. Get your tickets at strategiccapitalraise.com. With that, it's Capital Raiser Show episode 306, and it starts now. Rock and roll, I got Bethany Finch on the Capital Raiser Show. Welcome, my friend. How the heck are you?
I am good. I'm a little sleep deprived right now, but I'm good.
Why are you sleep deprived? Is it all the traveling that you're doing? You just got back to Seattle or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, correct?
I did. I literally just flew back to Seattle. I had a very quick 3-day trip to Kansas City. And so when I'm not driving the RV and I actually have to get the plane, it seems like, why do I do this? These are such quick trips. I don't like it.
Traveling is part of the business. So welcome again. Really excited to dive into all kinds of stuff. You and I are friends, business partners. We've hung out together in Lafayette. We've been to a Mardi Gras parade and all kinds of good stuff. We even ate crawfish together out there. And
That's right.
yeah.
They got the best for sure. I've traveled the country and theirs is the best.
Yeah. And you have a lifestyle where you live in an RV. What do you refer to this lifestyle as? Is it nomadic life? What do you call it?
I guess it would just be intentional living.
Intentional living. I love it. I knew you would have some kind of phrase that made it sound really good. So you, right. So you invest in all kinds of projects, built to rent, I believe multifamily, possibly. I guess we're going to have to find out about that. The Capital Raiser Show season 4, powered by our friends at Family Office Club, and shout out to our new sponsors, Invest Next. So really excited to dive into your story and how you got involved in syndications and capital raising and traveling all over the country. So why don't we start with a little bit about your background, Bethany? How did you get into this business?
Let's see, 27 years ago. That's how long ago it's been. Got started on our very first property. My husband was a groundskeeper. I was the one basically convincing the property management company that they needed us. They took a chance on us. And since then, we just kept going and growing and building. And at one point, Kurt had over 5,000 doors, assets under management, all
Ooh.
under full blown construction, some of them ground up construction, some of them just renovations across 20 plus properties, all here in the Pacific Northwest. And I was on the other side. I was always the business side of everything. So I was the one building out all the businesses and streamlining and tax advantages and kind of the brains behind all of it. And he was the go out and build the teams and get the work done kind of guy.
You're talking about your husband.
Yes, my husband.
Okay. Not your business partner. Well, I guess he is your business
He
partner.
is my business partner.
All right, cool. So what was the timeline? Did you start in single family? You've done some development along the way. I can't believe I never knew that you had 5,000 doors of assets under management at some point in time. You guys, as the general partners, like the head honchos of the whole thing?
So coming and going through different phases. So when you go from the ground all the way up, you're a lot of times you're working for startup companies or you're working for a bigger company, but those bigger companies are run more like corporate America. So there were times that he was a maintenance supervisor, and you can't see the air quotes. And this maintenance supervisor is doing everything that the asset manager is supposed to be doing because then they don't have to
Mm,
pay an asset manager. They just pay a
mm.
maintenance supervisor salary. So once he bought into that hook, line, and sinker because he was just happy to get going and be a part of something. But then in the meantime, he slowly started getting burnt out and 200 plus miles a day on the vehicles and never seen his family. And he's like, wait a minute, they're the ones making all the money. I'm not making anything. What's going on here? And so that's when I started showing him, let me point out their roles. Let me point out your roles. And he's like, well, I don't do any of that. And I said, I know. And he said, wait, I do that. And it was their job. And I said, oh, but you're not getting their paycheck? No wonder. So would you like to get their paycheck? And he's like, yeah, can we do that? I mean, he just had no idea. I said, yeah, what do you think I've been doing this whole time? He's like, what do you mean? A lot of stuff that I was doing in the business, he didn't even know about. I was building and doing stuff all on the side. And then when he wanted to know more about it, he said, I think we should start with single family. I was like, Why would we do single family? We only know multifamily. But in his mind, in his limited mind, that was if Bethany screws up, that's the way he thought. If Bethany screws up, I'll have another 300 some $1,000 mortgage. We can figure out a way to make it paid. That's what his thinking was. He didn't understand any business. He had no knowledge. He's used to dealing with everybody else's money and things like this. And so I either did a phenomenal job on the single family business, showing him how incredibly hard it was, him think it was incredibly easy because he did one flip and said, "Why are we doing single family again?"
Yeah, a lot of people find out very quickly it's more of a job than an investment business. So
It
they move
is. And
into,
that was the thing, though. In his mind and where he was at, he thought he would just be transitioning from one job to another job. So in his mind, that was okay. I
right.
had to wait because my business partner is my spouse. I had to wait for him to kind of catch up to me and what I was doing. And a lot of things, like I said, I was doing that he just didn't know about. So all my remote investing and all the different things that I was doing, he just had no idea. And he just thought I was going to boot camps, didn't know I was walking properties and doing things.
Wow. Fascinating. So when did you, so at that point when single families was no longer an option for him, you had been managing on the asset management side, or maybe it was more him and you were doing some administration and some other things outside. When did you guys do your first syndication, or were you already doing that before you brought him on board?
We were already doing that before he ever came on board. So I was already doing that all on my own. That would have been early. When you're older, the years just fly by. Let me think here. That would have been probably 2012.
Okay. So pretty much some of the most amazing times after the crash were period of space where you saw incredible appreciation and rent growth and a lot of people raising money, and the Jobs Act came in 2012, and
Yep.
506 B and C were separated, I should say, and it became a very interesting and fascinating and high growth period of time for about a decade, where everybody was making money regardless of what they were doing and how good their business plan was. And obviously that you have to have a little bit of a better business plan now if you're still making money in syndication. So tell us about your first experiences doing the multifamily, the raising the capital. What was your role? What were you doing?
Early on, I was brought on like asset management. I was doing due diligence. I was helping underwriting. I was helping the capital raise side of it. Never actually came into play until probably 2018 or so, just because our background and history and everything was all on the operations side of things. Basically, I came alongside people that already had deals and wanted some more experience on that side of it. And then they focused on the capital raise. And then as we gained experience there, then I flipped it and then I went to focus on the capital raise side of things and found a better connection there for me. I can do the other stuff, but I don't like it. It's just not appealing to me. I'd rather be out empowering others, creating passive income for them, and teaching and educating and showing them how they can be the bank and not have to worry about tenants and toilets
Mm.
than going and fixing those tenants and toilets.
So I had my friend Jeff Greenberg come on, and he used to be like the head honcho, main GP for a lot of syndications. And he found it to be a lot of work, and he decided to stop doing that and just focus on launching funds and raising capital for other incredible sponsors that he's met along the way. Are you saying that you are kind of in the same mindset where more of the time you just want to be spending with investors and creating passive income and raising money and doing funds and that kind of thing at this point in the
No,
game?
I would say we're probably split 50-50 because we still have projects and things that obviously we're still working on. We actually have acquisitions. We always have acquisitions going on. The types of deals and things that I'm getting aren't necessarily the types of deals that others are getting, but I know some phenomenal operators and I would partner with them any day
I
of the
bet.
week. And when we have a fund, it makes it easy for me to get people's capital moving quickly instead of waiting for my next deal or when they can come in and maybe they're a 506B. I have to find a 506B, and a lot of ones that you do fund to funds on aren't always 506Bs. So recognizing and understanding, we try to have a 506C and 506B available at all times throughout the company.
So tell me about some of the prominent deals that stand out over the last decade for you.
Well, the funny thing is, I think some of the ones that stand out the most are when I realized how small the world of multifamily truly is. So everybody thinks multifamily is like this big conglomerate corporate America, like pie in the sky kind of thing. And all those years that we were working with so many different owners and so many different teams, this team broke off from this team because this partner didn't like this and they started this one and then they started this one. And so, like, Avalon Bay used to be combined and then it went to Bay and Avalon and Trumbull Crow. And then they developed Trumbull Crow Residential and then Holland Residential. And Holland was from Trumbull Crow and they broke off. And a lot of the big companies, Archstone and a lot of the much ones that people would recognize, big names, Gray Star, all of those, they're all spinoffs. So we almost always know a lot of the either the owners or like the asset managers and things. And I think when I realized that, it was like the epiphany for me. Oh, wait a minute. I see how they did that. And that was it. I was done. I'm like, nope, I'm out. And that's when I started remote investing and looking for deals. And so for me, it was more of a seeing the inner workings of how business was getting done. Because in my mind, it was not just unreachable, but it seemed way more complicated than it was.
All right, we have a lot to dissect here. We've gone into limiting beliefs. I want to hear a little bit more about your fund and how you structure that. I want to know, how about we start with this at this juncture in the beautiful part of the program? Tell me about the kind of fund that you are running and who is on your team in your business. Is it something that you're wanting to scale, keep it small? Where are you in that kind of timeline of your trajectory?
Well, certain parts of it I can't reveal at this moment because we're still in negotiations. Basically, we are going to be setting up an evergreen fund and it'll have a debt portion and an equity portion. So those that just want to come in on the debt side can come in on that channel of it. The other side will just be for equity. And then we're using some pretty interesting technology to make things happen, not so that people aren't involved. For me, it's always about the people first and profits last. And the reason that is because the more I can create happy people, the more the profits will be there. So I do that by allowing fund to funds. So I want others to be able to come in. I want them to take a part in it. If they can bring, $1 million to any one of the deals, by all means, jump on board. Let's do it the right way though. So I'm the one that reads all the contracts that everybody hates when I point out stuff, right? I'm the one that goes toe to toe with the attorneys and says, "No,
Yeah, you're good at
this
that.
is what you wrote. We need to fix that." Because I understand the importance of that impact. That's what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it available for more people to be a part of because we have so many unique connections and opportunities. Plus, I've been building businesses for years, so I have a lot of experience in building businesses and I'm trying to create something that is 100% holistic approach, this sustainable thing that keeps growing and growing without me. So when I die, it keeps going and everybody
Love
is still
that.
being fed and everybody is still taken care of. And that's the goal with the whole thing.
And then what kind of asset classes will you be providing the debt for?
Short term slash executive rentals, short term lending, which would be 12 to 24 months. There will be a little bit of transactional funding in there for those that want that.
Mhm.
And then debt allocation piece, we may go up to a 4-year note, but I haven't fully decided if we need to do that because there's so much opportunity in the other side of it.
Yeah.
So there will be single families in there as well. And that'll have an opportunity for folks that some people want to build out a portfolio, but they want to do it by being the bank and
Yeah.
they want all these notes. That's all they want are notes.
Hmm.
So we'll provide opportunities for that as well.
Being a bank is incredibly powerful. Even seller financing, I believe, is actually more powerful for the seller than it is for the buyer, even though a lot of people think the buyer is the main benefactor. Tell us about some of the funds that you've done in the past.
I was only a part of those funds. I was like the LP in the funds. I was the one that
Mm.
brought, money to the deals kind of thing. So I wasn't ever leading any of those funds. In my mind, why reinvent the wheel? Someone else is already doing it and they're doing a great job. Let me just help them. And so it never made sense for me to go out and start my own. It's just now at the point where it's making sense and we've got some real strong partners. But because I'm so picky about my partners, that's why I like wait and watch and wait and watch and then wait and watch some more.
Okay, cool. We've talked a little bit in the past and had some fiery discussions about roles and responsibilities of people Tell us, what have you learned about, some people say they're the asset manager, but they're not actually doing that. You mentioned some of that happened in your own business with your husband, and that's the way you were getting treated. Can you give us any lessons that you've learned along the way about people declaring to be one thing and they're actually doing something else?
100%. Everything needs to be in writing. Because what happens is people get an expectation, and that expectation is some kind of thought or belief, but not actually what's in writing. I learned in every level, in everything from hiring your plumbers all the way up to your employees to other team members and partnerships, the contract has to be the bad guy. At the end of the day, you valued that person enough to bring them on board, whether it's a partner or as an employee or something. So you don't want to ruin that. That person is more important than anything else. So to prevent that from being ruined, from it going sideways or south because of human nature or human error, you want to remove that. And you do that by making the contract the bad guy, making sure there's a clear, either like if it's a contractor, right, scope of work. If it's an employee, roles and responsibilities are very clearly laid out with benchmarks and an understanding of these are the KPIs and this is what you're going after and these are what your targets are. And oh, are you hitting these? And a lot of self evaluations, things of that nature. It's really tough when things are real loosey goosey and it's, oh, we'll figure it out as we go. Yeah, I don't know about that because you don't know is what goes on behind the scenes in someone's life, what's happening at their house, what's happening with their family. Just like any partnership, the two things that cause the most divorce in marriage is finance and stress. And you have that in every single partnership. So you've got to avoid that. How do marriages? It's going to be a part of it. It's part of life. You have to be intentional about it. So you have to take the time, do the work, get it down on paper, make that the bad guy. We both agreed to this. This is what we said.
That's fantastic. Okay, besides the debt fund, the evergreen fund that you mentioned, what other kind of asset classes do you like right now and over the next upcoming years?
So still love, have always loved multifamily. I don't think it's going anywhere, but obviously I'm a huge advocate of build to rent because the housing crisis, we absolutely are completely short. We have to do something. So we're trying to actively address that. That's why Ruben, you and I have worked so hard on this specific asset class. But I also think there's a huge opportunity with multifamily office conversions. There's so many office, having traveled this country, there's so many empty and vacant office buildings right now. It's unreal. And if we can convert that, that's a pretty quick multifamily way to get housing product back in the market. And then you create some really hipster, cool looking places that people want to live
Hmm.
anyway.
Yeah, that's stuff that
Because
we're
they're always
doing.
downtown, right? They're always right in the heart of everything. So,
Yeah, I like that kind of thing. The whole gentrification of an
yep.
area of downtown is and turning it into trendy
Yeah,
or
when it
something
was
like that.
run down, and all the people that are still living there wished it wasn't, but they can't do it. But businesses are the ones that can make that difference.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So on the build to rent side and even on some of your other projects, I was asking you what kind of stuff you like to talk about. And you mentioned holistic approach, like you want to have an impact on the community. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Every aspect of our business, we have a give back. So all the way down to our single families, all the way up to into our multifamily, we have a minimum of, we call it our tithe, a 10%. That's a minimum. So for instance, on a single family flip, the biggest challenge in a community that we have seen is in COVID, a lot of churches got shut down because people weren't going to church. Well, then they weren't tithing. Now pastors aren't getting paid. And that's because
Mm,
churches are running on a broke business model. So to work with churches and to kind of really come alongside them and help them and teach them, we every single family home that we're flipping in any area, we're helping pastors set up and funding their retirement accounts. So now they have a little bit more security. They have a little bit more vested interest in not just going to the next place that can afford them. And it's they're treating it instead of like a job, they can go back to remembering it's a calling. On the bigger scale, any of our big multifamily projects, we work specific to whatever that community needs are. So, one of our markets in Arkansas is just now starting to have a homeless problem. They've never really had this. They don't know what to do with it. They literally have no idea. Well, when we were there, we've done several, literally like what I would call street to street visits, where we're walking through the homeless and we're talking with them and we're meeting them and we're finding out over 70% of them were either aged out foster care kids, which are kids that are in the foster care system, but they turned 18 even though they weren't graduated with high school yet. And the system stopped paying their foster parents because they turned 18, even though they didn't finish school. There's a stupid law in their books that we're working to eradicate. So in the meantime, the kids are basically out on the street. They got nowhere to go because there's nobody going to be paying a check for them anymore. And so it's them and a lot of vets that are coming back with PTSD that literally, these are good men that are just struggling to cope with the trauma that they've experienced and don't know how. And these are good old boy societies. So they don't talk about it. They don't seek help. You just suck it up. And in the meantime, they're a lot of real hurting people. So we are working hand in hand with the city to actually help a transition housing program like we did in some of the other counties and things. So we're basically what we've done in one, we're transitioning to other areas. If it's not that, some of our Florida markets have a real issue with sex trafficking. So we're working hand in hand with Operation Underground Railroad and some of the others. And we're hoping to actually eventually build out a kind of, I still got to find the better word for it, not a compound, but a safe haven, like a sanctuary. These guys are going out, they're doing amazing things. They're rescuing all these kids. Then these kids are brought back to what? Nothing. There's really no structure on the backside of things. So we want to create that safe haven sanctuary where these kids can come, heal, recover. They can homeschool as long as they want until they're ready to go into the public school system, until they feel comfortable and safe, or they could stay there forever and whatever. In the meantime, a lot of them are going to probably want to be entrepreneurs because that's what was taken from them, right? Their time and freedom. So they're going to have some massive skills that we're going to be able to work with. So we've already got organizations that will give them microloans and we can help build them out and introduce it to them and let them just run wild. If they want to start a crocheting business, we're going to teach them how to do it and they're going to be able to. So then when they graduate and if they choose to leave at that point, now they're walking into society holding their head up. I'm no longer a victim. I'm taking care of myself and my family and whatever that looks like. So it's a
That's
completely different turnaround.
wow, that's so incredible. Hey, let's talk real quick. I want to give a shout out to Ellis Hammond, one of my friends from Best Ever Conference. We hung out together. I know that he runs a program called Kingdom REI that you and Andy McMullen and a variety of people are a part of. Tell us, what is that? And in addition to it being a Christian-based real estate program, what else is it about?
So it's morphed through the years. Originally, it was a mastermind group that was mostly experienced real estate investors. It has since morphed to where he's now teaching and starting accelerator programs. So for those who want to learn how to be a capital raiser, or for those who want to go and learn to find deals, he's got these accelerator programs set up that are almost like a feeder. And then when they finish, if they decide they want to come into the mastermind, now they have an invite if they want to come into that. But it's an opportunity for them to learn how to get started in real estate, what kind of avenue kind of fits them and whatnot, and then gives a support group that's Christian based. We're praying together, we're worshiping together, we're literally going, oh my word, I cannot believe what the enemy did today. You would never even think this would happen. And then we're like, oh, yep, that happened last week. And then you have somebody that can actually relate to you on the same level. So it's a whole different, it's not your typical mastermind for sure. It's definitely a support group, but it's also he's always working hard to bring great value to the group and amazing folks that you never would have had contact with. And now you're getting to have really deep intellectual conversations with them about things that actually matter.
Love it. Okay, tell us about the video log, the vlog that you do, Diary of a Remote RV Investor.
So the Diary as a Remote RV Investor is something that I started, I don't even remember how long ago I started, because we've been on the road 4 years now. Somewhere in there I started it. It's a Friday chronicle that comes out. Sometimes it's video, sometimes it's just a blog that I'm sending out to people on the email list. And it's all the crazy, wacky, fun things that are happening while I'm out, people I'm meeting, places I'm seeing, what's happening, where I'm at. And hey, you're never going to believe what we just saw. And then I blast out some picture of some amazing thing that we got to be a part of, or people I've got to meet that were complete strangers. And after a 2-day interval with them, we become good friends, things like this. So all the fun adventures that go along, there's pictures in there of a group of us having to push the RV at one point. So there's all kinds of fun stuff.
Okay, I've discovered and noted that you can be very competitive at times. And I believe you told me a story about someone that you got in a competition with to see who could get the most subscribers on your YouTube channel. Now,
Yeah, that was me and Alice.
yeah, considering that you like to, or I should say that this show likes to talk about marketing and creating a platform that gets bigger, what did you do? I'm curious about what did you do to scale the channel and grow your YouTube following as fast as you did?
Honestly, that's a great thing to talk about. So I have had my YouTube channel for over 5 years. It was doing absolutely nothing. But way back when, one of my coaches along the way, because every year I'd have different coaches for whatever I needed in the business to get to the next level. And they had mentioned take your content, post it on all these channels. So I just kept doing it again and again, but nothing was happening. And I met another person through Kingdom REI who happened to also do marketing. And he said, we both need to work on our YouTube channels. Why don't we become accountability partners and we'll focus on it for the next like 6 weeks? And I said, great, let's do it. So for 6 weeks, we literally broke down each of our channels. We broke down the videos we were putting out. We broke down all the analytics and said, what's happening here and what's happening here. And so the things that were doing great on his channel was not doing great on my channel. And that's what showed, it really showed who our avatars were and how and what we're speaking to on those channels. So once we dove deep into that, then we were just holding each other accountable. Okay, did you do this? Did you do this? And then kept going and kept going. So by the time I actually challenged Ellis, I was pretty much done with that. And I said, oh, Ellis, you need some work, buddy. Let me help you here. So we had a meeting coming up and I said, hey, whoever gets to 500 first, it happens before the meeting. If not, whoever has the most by the time we get to the meeting. So that was the challenge, and he ate crow.
Hilarious. That's funny. Okay. One more question before we dive into the lightning round. I'm curious on the capital raising side, what you've learned along the way. How did you used to raise capital and how has it morphed? And what have you done to make it better over the years?
Early on, when I started, I would go to 4 to 5 networking events a month. I would connect with tons of people, and then I would come home with 1,000 business cards that would do nothing. Then I slowly learned to start using a CRM. It doesn't matter which one, just pick one, anyone. It doesn't matter, just pick something. So originally, I started out with an Excel spreadsheet and then morphed and morphed and morphed once I figured out what a CRM was. And then it's like, okay, that still feels like not quite the right transition for me. So once I realized that a CRM could do automated messaging and things like that, then it made more sense. So for me, it took the time to dive into how technology multiplies your time because I would be driving sometimes 2 hours one way to get to these events, spend 2 hours at these events, then another 2 hours back. That's 6 hours every time I'm going. And then may or may not ever get around to calling these people and then had no real follow-up system. So many times people have said the follow-up is where your
Yeah.
investors come. And so I literally have over 3,000 investors in my system that if I would just take the time and follow up consistently, my investor pool would probably double. But when we have to figure out how to duplicate our time, because that's the one thing that's a limited resource for us, but we think and treat it like it's not, but it is. We only get 24 hours in a day. And somewhere in there, we have to sleep. And somewhere in there, we have to eat. Once you start pulling out the things you have to do, your time gets less and less and less. So once I started incorporating the technology, started using the CRM, started building out autoresponders and reminders, started building out kind of the biggest thing is you have to stay top of mind. So if you're not doing anything to stay top of mind, like I had the YouTube channel, but I just assumed people would see it. I didn't understand they actually had to subscribe to the channel to be able to see it, to get notified that there's a new video. I didn't know any of that. So I had to learn what I didn't know, right? I didn't know about social media. It's never been a big thing for me. I'm not a big fan of it. And so I had to learn and step out of my comfort zone. I know enough, like I had to learn 60%. If it was 61%, somebody was fired. So I knew enough to be able to go out and find the right assistance and get someone to help with social media because that was the part that I hated the most. Didn't understand and hated it. I knew enough that I needed it, but I didn't. So I had to start finding my who's. And so as I start finding my who's, they weren't always the right people, but for the season and for the time, it got me through to the next one. And then it got me through the next one. And each time I found new different who's, sometimes I moved the who's to a different spot on the bus. Sometimes they just got back off the bus. But I learned that I really just needed to multiply my time. And then as I've done that and done a better job, then my connections are more, it's not that they're more genuine, it's It's easier for me to stay top of mind for them when they're seeing emails regularly from me, when they're getting videos regularly from me, and it's coming at their convenience. It's not whenever they think about me, because they're not, they're going to forget me. I'm forgettable, right? That's just how it works. And you just can't always stay top of mind. So I've never really done paid ads. I've never done any of that. It's always been organic for me.
Awesome stuff. Awesome input there. Okay, let's dive into the lightning round. My first question to you is, what's the best vacation you've ever taken?
Probably my daughter's graduation trip. We went on a Caribbean cruise with my daughter, my son, and her boyfriend. That was our very first time on a very large cruise ship. It was like 30 levels and just phenomenal. But the ship broke out in the middle of the ocean. So we didn't even get to go to the last port of call because the boat could only drive straight. It literally couldn't turn. And so because it couldn't turn, it couldn't go into the port. So we had missed the whole Bahamas, which was a bummer, but we got to see the British Virgin Isles and St. Thomas. And so, yeah, super fun, but I'm totally different than my less risky husband, right? So I'm jumping off the ship and I'm walking through the downtown streets and I'm talking to locals and finding all the cool places to hang out. And he's like staying on the ship, So,
Wow.
so we had some great times. And once he figured out a few things out, by the time we got to the second port, he listened to me and we got to do some amazing things, like a quarter of the cost. And we've got some great video of me going upside down on this zip line all the way across the top of the mountain. And he's
Awesome.
like, I'm glad you don't really pay attention to the rules because you never would have done that.
That's awesome. Okay, favorite book of any kind?
So many. My favorite book is usually always the one I'm reading at the moment. But since I'm daily reading my Bible, honestly, my Bible really is my favorite because every time I read it, I get new stuff out of it. And you just don't do that with other books.
How much of your success do you attribute to mindset?
I would probably say like 90, 95%. And the other 5% is just pure grit. The mindset will either limit you or it will catapult you. So,
Good stuff. How long do you want to live?
as long as I'm supposed to. I don't want to live past when I'm not supposed to be here. I don't want to do that. That just don't sound fun, and heaven's a lot more better. I want to be there.
Short answer on this, best way to raise capital from your perspective.
Probably a blended mix of technology and in-person connections.
What would you need in order to 10x your business?
More who's.
Can you tell me about a moment that changed the trajectory of your life?
Probably that moment that I mentioned when I realized I could do everything that those 5,000 door owners were doing, and I can do it better.
That's fantastic. All right, I want to know about the fishing. What do you love best about fishing?
Oh man, I love being able to be out in the river in my waders. I've never really had a boat, so it's always either on the land or whatnot, but I love being river fishing specifically and going for salmon. There's nothing like it. You finally get one and it's running. It doesn't really matter to me what the fish is as long as it puts up a fight. I've had 2-inch catfish put up a bigger fight than some salmon, but it was still fun bringing it in.
Your spiritual philosophies have anything to do with your success in business?
100%.
How so?
Everything I am, everything I have, and everything I will do, 100% comes from the Lord, whether it's a gift and a grace that was talented, that he was a talent that he gave me, or whether it was an opportunity that he gave me, or whether it was just the breath to continue and keep breathing and keep moving forward. Those are all gifts that were given to me by him, and without him, I wouldn't have those.
Fantastic. All right, 2 more quick questions. Have you ever experienced a miracle or had a near-death experience?
Yes, 3 times.
Tell me if you can, if you would.
Yeah, well, you don't know you're allergic until you're allergic.
Oh.
So 2 times when I had surgery, again, we didn't know I was allergic, and most of the anesthesias, they use ephedrine, and most people are not allergic to ephedrine. That's why they use it. And apparently I was allergic.
Okay.
So I was supposed to be coming out of anesthesia, and actually I was slipping, and actually my heart was dropping out, and I don't remember what the term is that they use, but my heart stopped. They had to paddle me, and it's like you're drowning and you're just sinking into the depths. And then all of a sudden it's like, they said I bolted right out of the bed, and I just like screaming, and it's like breaking through the surface of the water. And that was the first time. I had it another time happen, and Kurt watched me, didn't know I was allergic to morphine. I had a surgery, they were giving me morphine, and just literally stopped breathing in front of him, and the nurses just squirted him right out and started working on me. And So yeah, I've had a few of those, but the other one was driving off a cliff, hit a patch of ice, literally went off a cliff and busted through a fence, and the vehicle should have rolled and I should have been dead. And the Lord literally just picked up the car and just set it down. The policeman even said, "You could drive it away if you want." And I said, "Absolutely not. I will walk home. Once a day is enough for me."
Crazy. Wow, those are some amazing stories. I'm glad I asked that. All right, last question of the day brought to you by Shannon Amigo, one of our great listeners. She would like to know, what impact would you like to leave in the world?
Probably the fact that anybody can do real estate, whether it's single family or commercial. And if I can show them how to do it, and they can continue to not only do it, but then teach someone else, we're going to just continue to build an amazing legacy that will forever change the paths of so many lives.
That's the ripple effect. Amazing answers on the lightning round. Thanks for entertaining us on that part of the show. Shout out to the Capital Raiser Nation. Thanks for tuning in. Please leave us a 5-star written review. Shout out to our sponsors, the Family Office Club and Invest Next. Bethany, my friend, tell us, how does the audience get a hold of you?
Best way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn. Just look me up, Bethany Finch, on LinkedIn. Our company name, American Made Home Solutions, is also on LinkedIn, so you can reach us there either way. The best way to do that, or go to our YouTube channel, watch all those hilariously funny old videos. And we've gotten better through the years. We're still getting better. If nothing, you'll be entertained for sure.
That's fantastic. Okay, any last words of wisdom for the aspiring capital raiser or syndicator as they scale on their journey?
Yeah, I think one of the best things about American Made Home Solutions is we have a open door policy. So anybody that's coming on board with us, whether they're coming in as an LP investor or they're coming in as a potential co-GP or something because they're bringing some funds or whatever, we have an open door policy where we're willing to show and expound and teach anything that they want to know and be honest about it. We're not hiding things. We're trying to help and educate. Teaching is one of my passions. So we're just trying to help others learn how to do it so they can do an even better job than us.
Awesome. I love that approach. So this has been a lot of fun. Glad I got to get to know you even more on this. Very excited to continue to do business together on the Crest and other build to rent subdivision developments. Thank you once again for coming on the show. This has been amazing.
Thank you very much for having me, Ruben. I appreciate it.
You bet.